Welcome to the Story a Day podcast. This is Julie Duffy, encouraging you to be a writer today, not someday. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Julie here from Story a Day. And Story a Day September, if you're listening to this in real time, is just around the corner. Now, if you've been listening to this for a while, you'll know that during the Story a Day challenges, I put up writing prompts every day of the month and encourage you to start and finish a story on as many days of the month as you think that you can not quite manage. My aim is to get you to push yourself a little bit and also to give you some help with some prompts. Now, over the past few years, I've started developing richer prompts with explainers and videos and audios and stuff. And I'll talk to you a little bit about that in the next few weeks and how you can access that. But I've noticed over the years there's sort of two reactions to prompts. One is, yeah, give me more. I can't write anything without a prompt. And the other one is, I don't know about writing prompts. I don't want to be that hemmed in. So I wanted to talk to both groups today and anyone who's in the middle as well about ways to work with prompts and reasons to work with prompts that go beyond just the month of the challenge. I really believe that working with prompts can inspire your best writing. It can help you when you're not writing with prompts. And let me explain. Okay, so if you're serious about your writing, sometimes it could seem like you shouldn't be messing around with writing prompts. You should just be working on that serious novel or serious story that you want to get published, and that writing with prompts could be kind of a waste of time. I don't think so if you're doing it right, and I think that they have many benefits if you're working with the right kinds of prompts and if you know how to use them. So let's dispense with the idea about the right kind of prompts first of all. And immodestly, I will say that a way to find good prompts is to go to storyaday.org and just click on the thing in the menu that says writing prompts, or search in the search box for writing prompts. There's 10 years worth of archives at Story a Day, and most of the prompts are not frivolous. All of them are aimed at giving you a push to write complete crafted stories. They're not about writing exercises. They're not about describing the room that you're in most of the time. They're aimed at being a thing that's going to help you write a complete story. You can tell the difference between a good writing prompt and a kind of meh one, because a good one pushes you to think about character and a reason for why they're doing what they're doing. A good writing prompt offers some tips about how you might work with it. A meh writing prompt, well, for me, that might be a random collection of ideas that don't help you craft a story. Sure, sometimes they can. Sometimes there's fun in thinking about how on earth can I get a postal worker onto a beach holding the antidote to a deadly toxin. But these kind of person, place, thing prompts can make it hard to find something to care about in the story for you and for the reader. And if nobody cares, there's no story. It's just a collection of things that happen. So here I am warning you that sometimes working with prompts can feel like a waste of time, and yet I'm still encouraging you to work with prompts. Why? Okay, well, working with prompts forces you to try out new ideas. If someone tells you to write a story with a llama in it, then it's going to force you to try some new things. Maybe how do you get a llama into your fantasy? Or how do you get a llama into your urban, contemporary, realistic story that you usually write in? Or maybe you'll try something completely new. Prompts also encourage you to try out new voices. Sometimes your regular voice, you can get into a rut, and your regular voice just won't work for the type of prompt. So you try something new, and all of a sudden you discover that this kind of snarky, witty voice, which you've not been allowing yourself to put on the page, is so much fun to write in. Or you're trying so hard to be funny all the time that you don't realise you've got a fantastic grasp of description and emotion, and maybe you've got a little horror tinge to your writing that you didn't know about. And if you work with particular prompts, you can try out that stuff. They also allow you to experiment with form. Not every story has to be a straight narrative. You will have heard me say this before. I love stories that are fragmented. I mean, even novel. I'm reading a novel at the moment that's got letters inserted into it. Experimenting with form can open up lots of opportunities way beyond the challenge, way beyond the day that you sit down to write with a prompt. Working with prompts also encourages you to write even when you feel like you don't have any good ideas. Unless I'm the only one that's ever happened to, which I don't think I am. Have you ever sat down to write and you're like, I finally got time to write and I have no idea what to write about? Working with prompts not only gives you something to write about on those days, it gives you the confidence to know that you can write about interesting things on days even when you don't think you've got any ideas when you sit down. Working with prompts allows you to practice getting to the end, especially if you do it during the Story a Day challenge, when that's what I'm all about. I'm all about teaching, telling you, encouraging you, not just to start stories, not just to get lost in the middle, but to actually push through until you've got to the end, because it's a storytelling skill that you're going to need. And if you're going to write longer works, that confidence to know that you can take an idea from spark all the way to the end is a confidence builder. Writing prompts also lower the bar. They allow you to dismiss your ranting inner critic with a simple, yeah, I know, it's silly, but it's not like I came up with this idea. Let's just write it. So you're kind of fooling your brain into letting you write by saying, okay, this story doesn't have to be good. Look at the prompt. It's ridiculous. If I can write anything today, that's a triumph. And we need that. We need those little wins. And that, again, goes forward into the rest of your writing life, not just on the day you're working with the prompt, but on all of the days when you sit down and you know that you just have to write something to get to your word count or to keep your story moving or to stay connected with your book. Working with prompts can teach you that lack of perfectionism that's so important in our writing. Prompts also limit your choices. I've talked about this here a lot. Too many choices isn't really freedom. It's actually paralyzing. If you could write about everything, then how on earth are you ever going to write about anything specific? And as we know, specificity lends reality to our writing. And writing prompts just generally gives you confidence that you can write even when you think you can't, and you know there are days that happen like that. So every year after the challenge or during the challenge, I hear from writers who are delighted to find themselves writing every day on topics and styles that they never would have tried otherwise. Their confidence in their abilities soars, and more often than you might suspect, I hear from them months later that a story they drafted and maybe finished during Story a Day has been revised, has been sent out, and is about to be published, which is always great to hear. Please let me know if that happens to you. So, how can you get this optimal experience working with prompts? Well, of course, I have some tips. And the first one is, don't be too literal with the prompts. Just because the prompt says that you have to write about a particular thing, certainly this isn't Story a Day. I'm going to talk about the Story a Day world. It's different if you're writing for a competition that includes a prompt. But if you're using prompts for your own benefit, you're allowed to use the prompt as a springboard. It's not a contest where you have to use every element of the prompt. If the prompt suggests that your character is standing in a doorway, it's entirely appropriate for that doorway to be metaphorical. Maybe it's a mystical portal between two worlds, or maybe it's a threshold between two parts of their lives. Don't force yourself to write about a literal doorway, unless, of course, you're writing for a competition that requires an actual doorway. But if you're just using prompts for your own benefit, be flexible. Use the parts that spark an interesting story and then just let the rest go. Just drop it, right? Just keep writing. Take the story wherever it wants to go once the prompt has got you going. My second tip is to get emotional. It's very easy to write pretty words, write a series of things that happen, but if you don't find a character who fits into the scenario and ask why they care, then who's going to care about your story? Probably not really you, and definitely not the reader. So whatever the prompt is, you need to find a way into a story that has something a person can root for. If it doesn't have a character, whether it's a human character, an inanimate object that you are personifying, or whatever, if it doesn't have someone for the audience to root for and against, then it's not really a story. Maybe it's an essay, or maybe it's a rant. But without emotion in the story, the reader has no way in. So when you look at the elements of the prompts, I always recommend you ask the question, who cares? And who else cares? My third tip is to lean in to any prompt that you resist. Every single year I run this challenge, I hear from writers, and I experience it myself, that the prompts that they really, really didn't want to try today, to the point of getting grumpy or maybe storming off away from your desk for part of the day, these are the ones that spark the most interesting stories. In some cases, this experience has led to stories that have ended up getting published. So if you hate a prompt, consider trying it anyway. Set a timer if you have to, or promise yourself some kind of reward. Tell a friend that you're writing, whatever you need to do to get yourself working. But if you find yourself resisting a prompt, it's worth asking why. Actually, it's maybe not worth asking why until afterwards. Just write the darn thing. Then you can do a little post-writing analysis to see what was going on with you. But very often in our writing, when we run up against resistance, it's either because we don't quite know how to do a thing, or because we're stretching ourselves, or because we're just on the verge of leveling up. So try the prompts that you resist. You never know what you'll learn. Another tip for working with prompts is to work in shifts. You don't have to write the whole story every day, or you don't have to write the whole story at one sitting. And in fact, it's a very good skill to teach yourself to be able to leave a piece partway through and come back to it. Because if you feel like you have to race to the end every time, then you're not going to be able to progress into writing longer stories or even novels. You need to build your confidence in your ability to have an idea, start working on it, be able to walk away and be able to come back to it. It can also help you to deepen as you wander around your house doing other stuff, or your office doing other stuff. If you've started a story, sketch out a few ideas as soon as you see the prompt, go about your business, and your brain will be mulling it over as you wander around the world. And then later in the day, you can devote another stretch of time to actually putting the words on the page, then you come back to the notes that you made, and you will find that there's all kinds of stuff going on in your brain that you didn't know was there. And that can help with working with prompts. Another tip is to make it an actual story. The problem with some writing prompts, and I alluded to this earlier when I talked about needing a character for people to care about, a lot of writing prompts that you find online don't actually prompt actual stories. They set up an interesting premise or a scenario. You're walking along the road and you meet a dragon. What happens next? I mean, that's not really likely to spark a story. It might spark a series of wacky events, stuff that happens, but there's no necessity to have a story connecting the pieces and creating a coherent single story with a through line and stuff that people can care about. In the Story a Day challenge, at least, you're trying to write stories and finish a complete story to build up your storytelling skills, and that requires some cause and effect. So if you remember your short story framework, which you can download at the site, a character makes a decision, and because of that, something happens, repeat to fade. So actually not fade, repeat to end. So think about your character, why they care, why they react the way they do, specifically that character. And then because of that reaction or action, something happens. Cause and effect. Creates a story, pulls you and the reader through to the end. Gets you through the messy middle as well if you just keep asking, why? What happened next? Because of that, because of what they just did, what would happen next to this specific character? And my final tip for working with writing prompts is to treat them like origami. The stories that you write are ephemeral. Origami is supposed to be transitory. It's of the moment. You make a crane, you release it, and it's not meant to last forever. Working with writing prompts is often best approached in the same way. A prompt may spark a story that's not necessarily anything that you had planned to write. It can dredge up some long-forgotten memory, it can uncover a subconscious issue you didn't know you were carrying around with you, or it can simply send you off on a little flight of fancy for 40 minutes. You may find that you're writing about the same kinds of characters and issues in prompted writing that you write about in your more serious works, but it may not. Try to treat prompted work as a little vacation. It's lovely, but it's not meant to last forever. If you end up with something you want to keep working on, great. But let's not put that expectation on prompted stories. Let's treat them like more effective writing exercises than simply writing a scene or describing a feeling. You're still crafting short stories, but hold them lightly. It's okay if they only ever exist while you're writing them. So use writing prompts. Use good writing prompts to help you break through the perfectionism that often ends up becoming writer's block. Use them to learn skills like starting a story, walking away from it and coming back to it later and still being able to work on it. Use them to experiment. Use them to prove that nothing bad happens if you write a bad story. And most importantly, use them to remind yourself that yes, you can craft a story anytime you want, and that yes, writing can be fun. If you want to learn to write, don't read another book or article. Start writing. I'm here to invite you to consider the Story a Day 3-Day Challenge. It's a challenge and a workshop that gets people writing and completing stories in just 3 days, and it works. I'm fanatical about getting more and more diverse stories into the world, and I think yours should be among them. If you're feeling the pull to write or level up your storytelling, let me hold your hand through 3 days of short story writing. Check out the 3-Day Challenge at storyaday.org/3DC. And speaking of prompts, don't forget to come by the website storyaday.org this Wednesday, where I will have a brand new prompt for you, and actually I've got a little bit extra for you, so stop by on Wednesday to see all about that. Thanks for listening. Why not come over to the blog at storyaday.org and check out this week's writing prompts and articles. And in the meantime, have a great creative week, and of course, keep writing.